Happy evening. Happy evening, everyone. How are you all? Hope doing fine. Happy to see you back. See you all back. Yes, welcome to Super Soundy series, day 29. Is my voice audible? Yes, thank you. Happy evening. So, day 29. Thank you so much for all your energy and consistency. Keep giving this support every day. So, today we are truly honored to have a very special trainer with us. Ms. Rashda, an independent legal counselor and mediator with more than 10 years of experience in law, having worked in landmark cases like triple talaq, hijab, CA, and many more. She also brings her rich background in investment banking and finance, and she is trained mediator guiding clients towards peaceful resolution. So we all welcome with a big round of virtual applause Ms. Rashda to this beautiful platform.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening. Thank you, Kidar. It was nice of you to say a lot of things that was honestly not needed. But Alhamdulillah, yes, I am a practicing advocate at the Bombay High Court. Alongside that, my core interest is actually mediation. And there's no point in me going into details of what is mediation, etc., because everybody out here is basically a trainer. You are all very well versed with what a mediator is all about. But if I have to put it in a different way, I would say this, that each and every person in this room has at some point in time in their life been a mediator. And my interest also started out realizing life situation. So for example, if you ask me how long have I been a mediator, I'd say since the time I learned how to speak. Reason being, of course, I had amazing parents, but like all parents and all marriages, every marriage goes through teething issues initially, and it takes time for people to find their path. And like everybody else's parents, I too at some point in time had to. I by nature I don't like conflict. By nature I don't like chaos, which is why when I would see my parents discussing an issue, and it was not a discussion, but it was more of a conflict, I would end up being the one trying to make peace between them. Always, always. It was me. I have two siblings, two brothers, and of course, boys being boys, they'd be in their own world. But it almost every time it was me trying to make peace between my parents. Initially, always it backfired because I was a kid. Gradually, I learned how to play the game. In case of your parents, you can't really be a very good mediator because mediation requires a neutral party. It requires you to be impartial. And it's very difficult for you to be impartial when you have on one side your mom and the other side your dad. So that's quite difficult. But it did teach me skills. It made me very emotionally competent to understand what is the background that's going on between every discussion, when to keep quiet. And sometimes you realize that the matter would have got resolved without any mediation. But like me, I'm sure everyone out here has at some point in time tried to make peace between their siblings, between their friends, between parents, relatives, somebody or the other. You've definitely done that. So when I say or whatever it is I'm going to discuss right now, you'll easily be able to actually relate to it. And I genuinely believe that each and every person should hone their skills over a period of time in their life. They should work on mastering their skills at mediation, because this is one skill that helps you at every step of your life, at every step, including your work, negotiate, any other parameter, any other alternative dispute resolution you try to take. I'd say mediation, the skills required in mediation form the core. So if I give you an example, now, okay, there's another thing. uh, should every conflict be mediated? I believed yes. I believe that every conflict there is some scope for making peace or getting better sense to prevail between the parties. But time taught me that is not always the case. So I'll give you an example. There was this case of a young lady. She had a 5-year-old kid, and she put a petition for divorce through me. it was my initial days, and I said, okay, it's a good learning experience. Now, in every matrimonial matter, there is always, before the matter can actually proceed to be heard on merit, they always send the parties for counseling. And in that counseling, they, of course, the counselor is already aware that they'll fight the case out, but might as well try in case something can be worked out. So when my client and the other side, he didn't come with a lawyer. My client was the wife. The husband didn't come with a lawyer. First of all, he didn't turn up the first two times. On the third occasion, he turned up. And when they now she asked my client, the counselor, she was all excited because she's okay, ma'am, maybe I might do a job out here. She asked my client like, what is your problem? So my client just put one sentence. She just said, there is no financial support from him. He's been jobless for like ages now, or actually he's never worked, and he's not supporting me or my son. He has zero financial responsibility towards my son. So that is when, before the counselor could even ask any questions to the husband, he chipped in himself and he said, no, what she's saying is absolutely no, this is not true. Just 2 days ago I bought him a 5-star chocolate. So when you're dealing with somebody who's emotional or mental or whatever intelligence you want to call it, his understanding of financial responsibility is buying a 5 rupee 5-star chocolate for his son, then you realize that this is not the kind of case you want to sit down in mediation for. A similar case that we handled, it was a matrimonial dispute, which I did with my senior. And in that case, when again we were for the wife, and in that case when we sat, they were parties that were from outside of India. So that gentleman, when they were discussing the possibilities of him giving maintenance for the child, at least something for the child. So he said, I'll have to think about it because I have cats and dogs also as pets who have to worry about. Not that they don't require to be taken care of, but the point is, the man didn't realize that his responsibility of having to maintain children whom he gave birth to is very important. I mean, and he should be considering that. So these are the kind of situations where you then just walk out from the you don't try to make any efforts any further. So no, I've come to the conclusion that no, not every case can be mediated or deserves attempts at mediation. And then there have been cases where, again, now mediation being a neutral party, you can't you're supposed to be neutral for both sides. But there have been cases where certain initiatives do help. Like in my case, where I was not appointed a mediator and I had a client to represent, I picked up the phone, although this is something that would be viewed as weakness. I did pick up the phone on the other side because, again, you have to rely on your skills, you have to rely on your intuition, you have to rely on your judgment that maybe there's a possibility the other side wants to settle, but he's not settling because he's too afraid that he'll be rejected. And cutting across that barrier and trying to have to discuss with him and tell him that, okay, just in case you're interested, because it's a check bounce case and it's a direct jail. So he was very keen to settle. In such a situation, taking an initiative and trying to come across the other side as come across to the other side to want to fix things and to work things out can actually make matters work. But there's one thing that I've realized, if I have to talk from an experience perspective. Now, how do we define negotiation? That it's an assisted negotiation, it's a structured process, it's third parties involved, it's private, there has to be confidentiality, all this is there. But one of the biggest things that are required is in terms of soft skills. I believe this is where platforms like NIPR come into the picture, because there's not too much of effort or work in trying to develop a person's soft skills. You have to be able to have, one is your ego in place, not being able to take things very personally. So for example, we had a society dispute where I live, the housing society, and a huge fight involving somebody who was known to me as a personal friend and the society managing committee. And no, literally like a fight initiated just because they were cutting and trimming the trees in the society, in a civilized society, people shouting and screaming on top of their voices, and you having to get into the picture knowing both sides and having to mediate. That again is, it can be tricky, especially if then they start attacking you. But one of the biggest things that helps in allowing you to work through these kind of matters, you can keep your ego at bay. When you can realize that this is not about you, it's about them, and it's about the situation at hand. So this is something that, again, with time and with experience, I've been able to learn and understand. And I realize that uh, the more you try to, I would put, what's the right word, empathize. When you can empathize with the people you're dealing with, or the parties that you're trying to mediate between, the stronger and the more beneficial the process or the outcome of the entire mediation is. Now, in India, we had the Mediation Act coming into force into 2023, which gave a very structured process to the whole system of mediation. But at every level, not everybody is going through the laws as far as mediation is concerned. You will realize that you and I and those who are not taking mediation per se as a title also are having to deal with cases of mediation wherein they have to make peace between the parties. At a personal level, being Muslim, one of the things that prompted me to want to take mediation seriously was because of where the religion comes into the picture, where for those of my Muslim brothers and sisters who are here, you are aware in Surah Hujurat, and it says about making peace between people. And even the Prophet, peace be upon him, he has also emphasized that this, that mediation or making peace or reconciliation between two people is better than fasting, prayer, and charity, because you're bringing two hearts together. And especially in cases where, and even if for the purpose of reconciliation, if you have to say things that are not entirely true, but you reconcile the hearts or you bring the hearts together, then it's fine. It's not considered a lie. So these are things I used to battle with in terms of ethics, etc. And by God's grace, it is something that I've been able to balance my my work along with my with the spiritual side of me. Mediation has helped me do that. There have been cases where, like I mentioned, emotional intelligence, and somebody would be like, okay, where does emotional intelligence come into play? It comes into play not only because in terms of understanding the background or what exactly is going on in the picture. So there was this huge case that we had, that there was this huge case that had happened just a few years ago. It was involving a pharmaceutical company in which the owner who started the business was a lady, and she was fighting against her son. And this was involving like billions and billions of dollars. It was a international, uh, it was a multinational corporation. After all the fighting, when the courts directed that, okay, maybe you should try to sit across the table and mediate, eventually, on understanding the situation better, they understood that the only thing the lady ever wanted, for which she raised this battle, paid lawyers crores and crores of rupees just to handle the matter, the only thing she wanted was a sorry from her son. The minute he apologized, all the litigation, everything that was at stake just vanished, and all it took was an apology. Now that's not something you can get out of in a court case, where people are fighting, everything, all the dirty laundry is being washed in public, everybody is viewing you. So then egos are at stake. But to be able to, or these are sitting across the table where there are no formal rules, and you are having an informal kind of a discussion in trying to bridge the gap between the understanding between two parties. That is not only an interesting process, I believe you end up learning more yourself in trying to deal with these kind of situations. And manipulative is not the word I would like to use, because that has a negative connotation, but sometimes you have to be able to, in trying to empathize with the parties, you have to be able to understand where things are going and direct or push things in such a manner that the parties can, it's like you're basically trying to facilitate a pathway for both parties to let go of their egos and, yeah, induce. Thank you, mother. God bless. You induce that kind of a situation where both parties can open up and just let go of their differences and say, okay, listen, you did this, and this is what I'm not happy with this. If you're going to fix this, and I'm okay, I'll back off. And I think all of us somewhere have this kind of what should I say, nature in us, where we have been doing this all our lives. And you realize negotiation is not just about these family cases or business cases where these things happen. Even at a national level, like so many times you see in certain cases where there are riots or very emergency situations where matters have to be sorted behind closed doors. Those are also situations where mediation as a platform is probably one of the most I would say the most beneficial uh, systems that can be resorted to. uh, Now I had to give this there was another case actually I wanted to mention, uh, where you have to have this kind of what should I say? You should also be a very good observer of what's going on around you. We were dealing with a client who took some 16 odd lakhs. This was a check bounce case, and he took money, and he was constantly crying about the fact that uh, he didn't have any money to pay his child's fees, and that's why he cannot pay us back. The joke is that when he went right till yeah, so observation is very important. Now you're ideally you're going to the court, you're going to fight him, you're just minding your own business, but being alert also makes a lot of difference. Being observant makes difference, because a man coming to you in a three-piece suit in a BMW and saying that I didn't pay my child's fees, so I can't pay you the money, that is an issue. In fact, if all it would have taken is to just tell the judge, can you like look out the door, like just look out the window and see his car. So yeah, so exactly. So this is where I think even it's not just about what happens around the courtroom. Even in any mediation, in there will always be telltale signs of the people who come. Not everybody is coming with a genuine case, or they're coming with part genuine case, and rest of it is has been inflated by either egos or by external factors that have been prodding them from outside. But and I think this is also very evident in all of us when we see in our own personal lives cases of in-laws and cases of husband-wife issues, those involving in-laws, those involving how small matters can get aggravated to a very large extent, and the beauty about mediation is when you realize that it was actually a very small petty issue that got blown out of proportion due to a lot of background noise. So that is another thing that I feel that all of us per se have. I think all of us have, to a large extent, without knowing it or realizing it, developed skills necessary for the purpose of mediation. And I genuinely believe that each of us in our own professions, whatever it is we may be doing, need to continue to work on those skills. Yes, ego clashes, exactly. So need to work on those skills to be able to better what should I say, better handle our own professions. There is another aspect that I wanted to mention, which is something that is, I think, very unique about mediation. Now, when you go to court, there's a process. You have to do this, you have to file a case, you have to do the papers, etc. Even arbitration, it's got a formal rule. But the beauty of negotiation, through mediation, is this very informal, in the sense that, so for example, there have been times where I've had to get into the room, introduce myself, call everybody to introduce themselves, but I wouldn't always do the same thing with each and every client. In some cases where you can see that there is bitterness in the room, then what you would want to do is you'd probably request that, okay, I'll speak to everybody individually, get their side of the story at a personal level. And after understanding both sides, you're able to gauge that, okay, there is some common point between these two for this particular purpose. You get them together in the same room and then you deal with the situation. Because otherwise, what happens? See, how is mediation different from a normal? Two people are basically, or two people, or two parties, or two sides are fighting. They are themselves not able to resolve the issue, which is why assistance of a third person is required. So basically what's happening is, it's an assisted negotiation, an assisted negotiation between both sides. And when there is an assisted negotiation between both sides, even then there is a lot of scope for a lot of interruptions in between. Like I'm discussing one thing with one person and suddenly the other person says that no, I never said that. So one of the beauties of being able to work through mediation is you set your own ground rules by telling people that okay, listen, I'm going to listen to one side. If you have any objections, you can note them down and then we can try and work it out, right? You don't necessarily, there's no witnesses in negotiation, my dear, but because that's more like a court thing, but here it's an informal thing of two people trying to sort things out. The one thing I realized with working on building my mediation skills for the purpose of business and work is that two things actually. It helped me a lot in my personal life. The way so I started off with my personal life and went into the profession, but the skills I learned in my profession also helped me better deal with issues at a personal level. And I also believe spiritually, like so you take, whether you take the Gita, you take the Quran, you take the Bible, your religious texts also speak a lot, all of them speak a lot about how making peace uh, is not only a beneficial thing from a spiritual perspective, but the manner in which it has to be done, how you have to speak softly, how you have to have a certain conduct when doing it. And I'm sure everybody will be able to relate to this based on the religious texts that they follow. But this is something that has also I have been able to easily bridge, yeah, the protocol, bridge and been able to apply while dealing with disputes of the manner in which you have to conduct yourself. So gradually I've seen I used to per se have a lot of aggression in myself. Of course everybody comes with some level of trauma, or most people come with some level of trauma in their life. And but thanks to this whole process of the manner in which you have to deal with trying to sort cases and setting ground rules, you then eventually psychologically and subconsciously you end up applying those rules to yourself also. When you deal with matters with your friends, with your parents, with your brothers, with your sisters, with your bhabis, you end up then following a certain system, and over time everybody gets adapted to a system of dealing and talking to each other with peace. So this is something that I have personally felt I have been able to, or rather it has helped me grow as a person, as in at a personal level and as well as a professional level. Then there was this I think on in most fronts I have spoken of almost most of the relevant cases that I can think of. If there's anyone who would like to share a point or discuss something, I would be glad to discuss it. Anyone, before I can just close the main subject. Code of conduct. Yeah, so the mediation act provides a code of conduct. It's like professional ethics, etc. It's similar to the ethical professional code of conducts that lawyers have to be acting in the capacity of an advocate. That is there. Has anyone over here ever had an experience they'd like to share in respect of a negotiation that or a mediation that they'd had to be a part of? Anyone? One case.
Anyone, please, your valuable feedback.
Okay, then I'll just mention the last point that I wanted to, whether it's my profession as far as a lawyer, or even conducting yourself in mediation, or I think any profession I'd say in life, but specifically here where it's involving contracts and parties. One of the biggest qualifications I believe is ethics. It's ethics, and this cannot be, you cannot conduct a mediation or you cannot conduct any kind of conciliation between parties who don't trust you. Now, people who don't know you, like your family knows you, if they know you have the character of somebody who speaks the truth, who's not the kind to take sides, that is it's easy over there because they know you. But when you are dealing with people whom you don't know, for both parties, first of all, to be able to agree on a specific mediator, either both parties know you to be of a certain conduct and of a certain character, or nobody knows you. And I discussed the case where you are appointed as a mediator, or you are requested to be a mediator between parties who don't know you. One of the biggest things is convincing, or rather giving them the assurance that whatever it is they speak to you, even in person, is confidential. And if you cannot build trust, or you cannot build have a certain like she said, a certain conduct with yeah, not being biased, if you cannot bring that out in your discussions with, I'd say, anybody. Of course, I'm talking in terms of profession, but for example, if my parents always knew me to be biased towards one side, or my siblings knew me to be biased towards another side, nobody would bother bringing any issue to you. And that system works the same even in as far as the profession is concerned. If you are known to be somebody who, or if you are coming across during your discussions anyway as somebody who is not, or who has personal prejudices, for example, you may be a feminist, and you're in a situation where you're working between a husband and wife. The husband is bound to feel extremely insecure about the fact that he has a mediator who is a feminist in a negative light, that's what I mean. So these are, you can't afford to have your prejudices, your personal prejudices, your judgments across when dealing with cases of negotiation, or of mediation, or when you're trying to meet. It has to be thoroughly objective. And to be very honest, I have had to build myself on that. We all come from backgrounds where we we are conditioned to think a certain way, to a certain extent, in terms of our values, in terms of what it means to be a married husband, or a husband or a wife. What are their roles? Who is supposed to be doing what? How you're supposed to, how each side is supposed to be conducting themselves, belief systems. Professionally, what may be ethical to someone may not be considered as an ethical requirement to another side. For me to have to navigate across and recognize that my belief systems and my understanding of what is right and wrong has to be kept aside, and you have to give, I think, one of the most important, I would say, in fact, key qualities that is required. If I have to sum it, I'd put it this way: is to be able to be someone who has a very who is very capable of giving benefit of doubt, especially when you have your own values, your own culture, your own belief system, and you are dealing with a system or a situation in front of you where uh, it is against maybe your value system, your ethics system, or it could even be something that you have never had to deal with before. You have people who are foreigners, you have people who come from different religious backgrounds, you have people who come from different value systems. And to be able to recognize that your benchmarks are not the may not be the right benchmarks to apply here, and be able to be objective and hear the other side for what their issue is. I think one of the biggest skills, or one of the biggest growth growths that happen in this field is their benefit of doubt, where and putting yourself aside. You literally have to come out of your own personality and sit in between two people, or two sides, or two parties, uh, killing those prejudices or whatever it is you have in your head, and trying to make sure that you don't in any way either hurt or offend anybody by your manners, or by your the statements you make. And at the same time, give them the assurance, genuinely give them the assurance, not for the sake of it, that although you may not understand where they're coming from, you are trying to understand and you want to make things work if there is any scope for it to work. There have been times where I have not understood certain things and I've had to actually understand those processes from the people in front of me, and they've sat down to explain to me. So that genuineness also has to be there in wanting to communicate. And I genuinely feel if you go with sincerity, somebody who knows that you don't know what you're talking about will also give you a chance, because they realize that she is genuinely trying to, or he is genuinely trying to work things out. And this is just in terms of what I've gone through. So it was nice. I'm sorry, I'm not a PPT person, so I can explain things the way I can in whatever way I can. But thank you.
Anyone? Please your valuable feedback. Yes.
Ma'am, how was it initially when you were starting this profession? How do you feel? How you felt initially?
Initially, I was lost, to be very honest with you. I realized that I have a knack to try to do something called as sula, right? But the problem is, I was like, okay, I can do mediation, and God has blessed me with the gift to try and make things right. But how do you find the people fighting? Like, where do you go to find people fighting? And then, or rather with disputes, and then uh, it was divine guidance that yeah, you go to the court if you want to find people fighting, and that's how law came into the picture. uh, Initially I realized that uh, so I was a mediator by choice, also by skill. But one of the biggest things I realized very shortly into my work was that you can never know everything, and just like any other skill, there is always scope for improvement. If you were to go for programs, search for programs where people are handling it, I realized I'm also not very professional. I by nature also, I used to always, at least in the past, I was more of a very happy-go-lucky, cheerful kind of a person. And you in this profession, you also have to have a certain level of professionalism. So again, that comes with time and experience. But I enrolled in how we have it at NIPR. Prior to that, I enrolled into courses to be a qualified professional mediator, and there I learned many skills which I had no idea about. That these are also techniques you can adopt. If this is how they behave, then you should do this. And if this is what happens, then if there is a language barrier, this is how you can take care of an issue or a case with a language barrier. I realized taking skill education and training in skills that can help me with mediation was a turning point in bettering myself, and in also humbling me. Because like I said, I came from a background where I had a conditioned mind, like most people do. And when you get training in a certain direction, they also make you realize that, listen, you can't have mediation with certain prejudices. You need to be able to look at it from this perspective also. So opening my mind, my brain, to understand, like my thinking process, to understand that uh, there is there are so many ways of looking at this situation, and a person reacting a certain way doesn't make him or put him in a certain bracket. That realization came when I took that training. So I initially I was swimming in shallow waters trying to float, but training helped me swim better. is, I would put it that way. Yes, perception. The mediation has a lot to do with perception. A lot. And I also, thanks to the training that I took and my experiences, I could better understand my family, my parents, and why things happened the way they happened, why people behaved the way they behaved better. I think we're done. Someone would like to be a mediator. What's the first step? You are already a mediator, so you're already, if you've crossed step one, because when you have a mindset to be a mediator, you've already got to step one. You don't need a professional qualification for this. I took training. Yes, you have many institutes across India that are giving you training to better mediate. If it depends on what profession. Now in law, mediation is required, so it made my path very easy. But if you want to be a professional mediator, there are specific institutes that give you the qualification for mediation, and now they've come up very well across India, even in South India. If I'm not mistaken, there's one, I think, in Chennai or Tamil Nadu, one of the two. In South India, there is one, a very good one. I think, sorry, Hyderabad also has one. So you can have a proper qualification as a mediator and specifically work on mediation for cases. And given the background that we have at NIPR, everybody qualifies. It's a very rewarding experience, I tell you that. Like, yes, one thing is there, to a large extent, if I can avoid, I avoid family issues, because I can tell you this, it's very draining. It's very painful, especially when there are children involved. I realize that I happily work on corporate cases better. There's no the thought of a child having to be separated between two parents and having to give up on one, and child, especially in most cases in India, you find the fathers separated from their children. That is very painful. Denial of access, etc. These are things that are extreme. They're taxing as far as I'm concerned. So, and I'm saying this despite being a woman. So it's extremely painful to work on those. If you are able to navigate your emotions better, then you can take up personal those kind of cases too. I prefer corporate cases because, like I said, the other ones are a little draining in most respects. Are we done? Done. Okay, cool. You are welcome. Since we are at it, thank you. Wish you the same, dear. So there was supposed to be a mediation meeting today, which got postponed. And the issue was one side, it's a society issue, where one side, there's this lady who has cats, and this child went and did something to the cat. I still don't have the details, but definitely harmed the cat, because of which she raised her hand and slapped the kid. And the parents of the child then went and fought with her, and they were going to go to the police station. I was just wondering, if you had to mediate between these two parties, what would you do? They literally called me to settle the issue because they're both fighting and they want to throw each other out of the society. So, I'm just curious to know if anybody has any inputs of what would they have done. As ridiculous as the
Wow.
issue is.
Super. Thank you so much, ma'am. Today, very useful
You're
session.
welcome.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, speaking
You're
English, speaking
welcome.
Tamil, Kaja Moidin sir. on the topic parenting workshop. Please support her in the same way. Thank you so much. Good night, sweet dreams. Bye from Sharifa Abdul Rahman. See you tomorrow. Bye. Assalamu alaikum.